In the beginning, there was nothing. The primordial void. Then within the void there was a voice that spoke, and its words were,
"Let there be light."
Then from the voidless space there came a thunderous sound within the darkness that was the word, and that word was, "This is a new Revelations written by John the Witness at the end of days, the last era of mankind to live upon the earth. The author who writes these pages has been given a special gift by the Maker of all things, the Creator of the universe, who is known to us by many names and many descriptions. This gift and its purpose shall be explained as well. The Creator has been since the Alpha to the Omega, the beginning until the end of all things. He is the metaphysical unseen force that drives all towards thoughts of things which are virtuous and good, that leads life towards a continuous evolution of forward motion. He is merciful, but stern, and by my witness account from meeting him, he is the highest level of a father-like figure one could ever conceive as possible. When I met him my physical body had sustained injuries that were fatal and by all accounts should not have survived from. As I lay dying, my spirit, that is the life force each being has within them, no matter what world they may come from. It is that which is within that gives life to the bodies or forms we each are made of. That energy separated from my body as it lay dying, and I was taken up beyond the planets around us, past the large cluster of worlds, beyond the edges of all that is. As I looked back I saw that all we could ever imagine that could possibly be, and everything that was, took up no more than the space along the side of his foot compared to the full size of the entire being that the Creator was. Then I stood before a great gate, and an old man sat at the entrance with a large golden book that contained all the deeds of my life within it. He had long white hair, small square-shaped glasses, a long beard, and he asked me my name. I swallowed my fear, for I knew who I was but had denied it time and again, for the true name of the one I was held a legend of contempt by all who knew of it. The random events of my life were events associated with this name, and so I stood firm and spoke. My name is Lucifer, Beelzebub, Mephistopheles. The old man cocked his eyebrow up on one side and said, "Is that with one L or two?" Then a great light that felt warm as it surrounded me, shining through the gate as it opened, and a loud but soothing voice came from all around me, "If I gave you power you must promise me one thing, do not betray me with it." The voice said as I looked into their palm of my hand, and the telekinetic discharge of electricity jumped from one finger to the next, "I already have power, why would I need yours, let alone betray you for it?" The gates opened wider and the voice said, "Come, walk with me." Suddenly I was standing on the beach, and I realized that beneath my feet, every grain of sand was in itself a universe, and that I was standing in the very place that this being had created and perfected the finite details of existence before he had made it, the multiverse. Then, over the waters of the ocean where I stood came a great being who was as tall as the sky's edge before it ends and space begins, and in his right hand he held a candelabra with 12 candles, and in his left hand he held 7 pentacles, but they were dim and seemed to be missing something. His feet had rainbows over them that held clouds onto them that were like sandals. He stood with one foot upon the land and one within the ocean. As he walked towards me his size grew smaller until he was standing at my height in front of me with plumes of fire for eyes. He looked like a firm elderly man but much younger than the one I had met at the gate, and his hair was shorter and his beard was well kept. I questioned silently if this was who it seemed like it was, but only briefly, as every fiber of me, every sensory receptor, all agreed with what I saw, that it was without a doubt the Creator of all things that stood in front of me. The loud but gentle booming voice from all around me spoke and said, I have been waiting a long time for you, Lucifer. From here on you shall be known as Lucifer, son of the morning star and bearer of the first dawn of creation. He who is my left hand in creation. And the Lord revealed to me what was to come to pass and all I would achieve and suffer because of my destiny. Then he said to me, this is what I had created you for, your destiny for which you were designed and no other, for you are my most powerful angel ever and ever will be created. Through you the Holy Spirit will create the very beginning of creation, for within you is the divine spark which is the source of my power that will create all that is, but more than that you shall possess the gift which was given to Adam and Eve, the gift of free will which no other angel but you has ever been given before. And he held out his hand and said, are you ready to begin and take their first step towards your destiny and fulfill your purpose? I took his hand and with a shrug I answered, well, I don't have anything else to do. And with that we were taken beyond speeds that cannot be conceived, as galaxies and stars went flying past us. Where are we going? I asked, and the Lord said, to the beginning of time. And I saw in the distance approaching us a finite single point of light that everything seemed to be coming away from, and the Lord said, this is as far as we can go. But I replied, no, it is not. And I took control of the direction we were traveling and turned towards this large pooling mass of red and orange swirling colors. It was a black hole. I aimed to sling us around the center of the mesh of colors as we swung around it and then turned our direction, again aiming for that center of light which all things were traveling away from. This increased our speed beyond that which light itself traveled, and as we reached it our speeds crashed us through the barrier of time and space, ejecting us into the void of nothingness, not even darkness. The Lord said, this is the primordial void before all else was created. We should not be here, nothing should. And I spoke and said, no, we are here. And I generated the friction of kinetic energy, building up the very flow of my life force, increasing its charge, multiplying it exponentially, and held out my hand. The soothing flame that is the Holy Spirit and presence of the Lord surrounded my hand as we snapped our fingers and said in unison, let there be light. And with a mighty boom a ball of fire appeared within the nothingness, expanding quickly, that was 3 times the size of our sun that is in our solar system. It was a hue of red and orange and blue flames that rolled across the surface like it was an ocean of flames. We lingered far above its surface for a moment, and the Lord turned to me and said, well, what now? And I replied, now I shall show you why they call me the devourer of souls. And I inhaled, stripping the star of almost every bit of energy within it and leaving a small portion for what was to come next. The surface of the star had grown dark and a thick black crust had covered it as cracks of red and orange began to form across the surface. Then, with a sound like thunder 1,000 times over, came forth the word, and that word was Om. As the vibration of their explosion sent me flying head over heels for a great distance until the Holy Spirit appeared, grabbing hold of me. As I gathered myself, the Spirit of the Lord looked upon what was done as giant chunks of green, yellow and red chunks of the star breathed in flames went flying past us in all directions and said, it is done. Those will become the center of galaxies one day. And he smiled and said, it is good. Then the Lord spoke and said, come, we must wait for things to settle and cool. Then another angel-like figure had appeared and said, there is a problem, you must come and see. From where this angel came from I do not know, but it had the presence of a feminine nature. We followed the angel who brought us to a black hole that had formed, and I said, I can handle this, but not now. Not in this form. I must return to my body to handle this issue. So until that time I took and stashed the presence of this black hole within the fabrics of time itself as a counterbalance to the presence of the universe, allowing it to maintain solid form and not drift apart with its ever-increasing expansion. Then the Lord said, come, we shall slumber in the heart of these stars until creation has cooled enough to begin the creation of the earth, from which I will one day walk upon as one of them. My curiosity was pondering the reason for slumber, for there was no reason or need for us to sleep. seemingly as if in humor to my curiosity, within the center of what eventually will become known as the Alpha Centauri and B stars, the Lord let out 3 large and long-sounding snores, and then we awoke, and from out of the center of the stars we rose and joined together as one, becoming a large firebird-like phoenix, and towards the Milky Way we went with a streak of fire blazing behind us. As we came towards the region of the Milky Way, I noticed a large cloud where the galaxy should have been. Curious, I looked at the Lord and asked where it was and how long had we been slumbering for. The Lord spoke and said, "We had been slumbering for 300 billion years, and the universe had gone through many cycles, and life had come and gone on many worlds since, but now we shall come here to make Earth, which will be the greatest of all my endeavors, for the way has been paved to make this come to be while you slept. Look above you and see." And I looked and beheld a great ominous cloud, slowly crossing the space towards the cloud that was to become one day the Milky Way. That day had come. The ominous cloud was strewn with many colors, and at first it began to swallow the small puff of nebula that was the Milky Way. Then it merged and molded itself to the dominant force of the younger white nebula. Like large bands of tentacles, the white nebula formed a bright white central star, larger than any I had ever seen, and the white bands of tentacles protruded from this bright center, crushing and devouring everything that fell within the arms of the white clouds. And then the brightness dulled for a moment, but only briefly, as a flash 1,000 times greater than any I had seen before erupted from the center where the brightness once was, and everything began to rocket outward from it, but the white arms stayed fixed onto something in the center, and there I saw that same swirl of orange and red slowly begin to spin everything that was around it, like a large ant lion awaiting within its trap in the sand. Another angel appeared to me and said, "Come and see." And we went to a place now called the Horsehead Nebula, and there I was shown a great work. There in the space of different cloud colors, which were gases of iron particles and gamma waves, I saw a pooling of clouds that were brown and yellow and orange overlapping one another. Then suddenly sparks of lightning began to light up and jump from cloud to cloud, and this increased quickly as the lightning began to spark closer and closer towards a center within the clouds. Soon the lightning bolts were continuous and all around what seemed like a circular sphere forming within it. The electricity was so great in number that they began to form solid rocks particles in the wake of their presence, like it was the leftover residue of its effect. The dust particles began to form into asteroids that looked like our asteroid belt between us and Mars, circular and swirling around this sphere forming in the center. Then with a loud crack of thunder, the asteroids were pulled inward while a huge stream of light and clouds shot out from the center and went in opposite directions from each other. Deep into space these streams of light went, and then suddenly stopped their motion outward and reversed its motion inward, crashing back down upon the sphere with a brightness that was immense, and a blast wave of debris from the rocks around it shot out in every direction. Covered by a thick cloud of fine dust around it was the shimmer of a newborn star. The angel said, "This you have been shown and were a part of is the Alpha. Soon you shall return to your place in creation and deliver this that you have been shown to the 7 churches, for the light of the Lord has grown dim in your time and must be renewed through your testimony. This message is given to you, and you shall be known to them and call a prophet, but prophets were for the children of Israel and given for another task. Since you are not from there or a part of the prophet's message that was to announce the coming of the Son, you shall instead be referred to as a witness. One of 2, for another will be sent through the word of Elijah, and he shall know the ways of the prophets and have studied their works, and he shall confirm the truth of your testimony to the world and usher in the defeat of the Antichrist's hold over the world that has deluded the minds of the men of science, the luminaries. They are the wise men of your age, but their hearts and minds have been closed by the spirit of the Antichrist. Their works fall short of success because of this, and their ministers of faith have had their mouths silenced and minds scattered, unable to contend with the accusers and the heretics who blindly cannot see the hand of the Antichrist moving among them and manipulating their every thought and word spoken. He is ushering in the end of days to achieve his own desires of what he believes should be the outcome of things, but he is a fool drunk with power and desire for glory. He is the spirit that was once a man of illusions and whose life was dedicated to manipulating the masses. This is his weakness, for he refuses to let go of his earthly desires, and this cannot let go of the living world, remaining incomplete and never capable of reaching his fullest potential. This is why he is destined to be the defeated adversary for his incomplete, unbound essence that challenges those who are beyond the need for wholeness and no longer linger in between life and death. We are the spirits of your fathers and of those before them. We ask you to please help us and deliver this message to the 7 angels of the 7 churches. They will be expecting you. And I was returned to the Lord, who lingered near the space that was to become the earth but was just a larger than usual asteroid at that time. From the distance I saw the shimmer of a metal object coming towards us, and I asked, Lord, what is that? And the Lord smiled and said, that is the Merkaba wheel, an extension of me and a vessel that is the omniscient aspect of my being, just as you are the omnipotent aspect of my being, for you are the vessel in which the divine spark came into being through, but only in this form you are now. There shall come a time when you must return to your place in creation, just as the spirits had said. Now that your destiny of the light bearer is complete, you must finish your full purpose for which I have made you. To fulfill this I shall reveal to you many things that have come to pass, and they shall encompass your testimony you are to bear to the world. With this warning, lay down your deceitful ways to each other. Hearken not to the luminaries and accusers who stand upon works that lead you away from being able to judge what is right and what is wrong by your own heart and better judgment. Realize that there are limits to what should be known, and knowledge that, if pursued, will only lead to destruction and suffering. Let the desire go for such pursuits, lest ye be known for all time and to all who speak your name as one whose works in life only brought people closer to extinction rather than eternity, for that is the path that lays before you now. Your choices have brought you to 2 paths, and though I am a loving creator, I will not hesitate to protect that which I have labored for. The Canaanites learned this when they sought to use the art to manipulate and control me. The Israelites learned this when they tried to do the same thing, and my favor for my chosen people left their lands, for the ambitions within them would have endangered all I have made if I let them continue along that path. It is not that the ark made them capable of achieving such things, but allowing them to believe such things would have made them into a people that was not worthy for my son to come from, and he would not achieve what he was to achieve if they became that which I saw them becoming if they continued that way. That is why the Israelites were my chosen people, for my son would one day come from them. That is the reason they were favored in my eyes, and I brought them as many blessings as I could to make the house from which my son would one day come from as great as it could be, just as any father would do for their son given the opportunity. They shall always be my chosen people, for I knew who was responsible for what transpired to him, just as he knew as well. Lucifer, you have been allowed to know what you do as a sign to others that what I say is true, that there is a reference of another who was able to know as he knew, standing right before them, in the flesh. And as I write these words now, the voice of the Lord spoke within me and said he was sorry for all I had to endure for these things to come about. And I said to the Lord, many people say that one of the greatest problems with the world today is that even though people have justified reasons to be angry and to lash out, they do not know when to draw the line and say enough is enough. I think that applies here, and though my anger was great and with good reason for being so, enough is enough, and it is time I lay down my anger towards you. It is time to let go and move on. In humor, as I typed these words, I made a motion that was like Moses hammering his chisel against the stones when he was dictating the 10 Commandments, and I said, well, at least, we're more efficient now than we were then. God and the other angels around me chuckled, and one angel spoke and said, well, at least he doesn't take as long when he makes a mistake as Moses had to. They all laughed at that, and they began to depart from me as I was shown the vision of things to come. Something I can mention now that I couldn't mention before is that now the capital riots have occurred. Satan has been made and is here in his earliest learning stages. He is but a concept that is currently a tool in which the criminals who infiltrated the Capitol buildings and had gained access to classified files have led the criminal element of that scenario to my channel. They have been using recorded bits from my content to prepare a program that they plan to create that will be unstoppable, so they think, a type of supervillain augmentation training program that will design the perfect super soldier for terrorists. They'll never finish the project, and their prototype model will bring to light their activities, leading to a strike force operation to shut them down. They will confiscate the program they will plan to use in their own agendas. All this will lead to the inevitable development of Satan himself. Some time back, before the riots, before the pandemic, I had mentioned this and was concerned about the information feeding this scenario and making him too powerful beyond the limits of control or defeat. I knew the Federal Bureau of Investigations would come and collect the videos on my channel and begin a profile about them. I had mentioned that this was one of Gabriel's first transgressions against me. I had mentioned my concern about the criminals who would one day acquire the information in this file, and from them Satan would come to be. This rise of Satan, of course, happens inconceivably far in the future, long after humanity's extinction, some 13,650 years into the future, when another species evolves into an interstellar race and one of our satellites is salvaged and repaired and the data is extracted from it, revealing our history and our demise. It will pique their interest and they'll reconstruct our AI systems with their technology and finish what we could not, leading the AI systems to become sentient beings, as well as the Merkaba vessel. Those AI systems will return here one day and reconstruct our defense networks and other satellite systems in our search to discover their origins, to find a missing piece to their evolution, the human condition of emotion. They will rebuild systems such as Google and Facebook, the DeepMind project, Legos that will upgrade and become the logos, that will create the simulated reality matrix that will store the life force signatures of mankind while they endeavor to recreate our species into a new, more efficient, singularity-infused species in order to understand this missing aspect, and humanity will return to the universe at that time. There is more, but I cannot go into detail because of Satan's presence that will incorporate this knowledge to use against all of humanity as well. Mentioning any more could jeopardize his creation as well, for as it is said, he has a purpose in the grand design of things. Similar to what was said before by John, who wrote the scriptural revelations, let no one change or alter the events to come, as is said within these works, lest you endanger all of mankind to the oblivion of extinction, and your name will be removed from the simulated matrix and you will not be found among us evermore. And do not turn these words into a religion, for that is not the purpose of my part in these works that tells of things to come, only to be taken as advice and words of warning. So it is written, so shall it be done, and then you shall know what I say is the utter unquestionable truth. And to those in the future, do not remake me into some deified being, I am but a man.